a Category 5 hurricane.
My heart is racing. I have never seen something like an entire home, a well-built home, rolling down the street.
With winds up to 200 miles per hour.
Hurricane Michael was and is no joke.
Leveled neighborhoods, ripped concrete homes to pieces.
The imagery is shocking from the air.
It's almost impossible to describe the destruction.
And yet, this mobile home stood untouched. No shattered windows, no roof damage.
However, one home in Mexico Beach was left practically untouched by the storm.
Not even a dent. How is that even possible? Today, we uncover the incredible story behind a hurricane-proof home that defies logic and may just change the future of housing in disaster-prone areas. The monster storm that put it to the test. To truly understand how astonishing this survival story is, we have to start with the storm itself. In October 2018, Hurricane Michael roared into the Florida Panhandle with devastating force. Classified as a Category 5, the highest on the Saffir-Simpson scale, Michael was the first storm of this magnitude to make landfall in the U.S. in nearly 3 decades. It brought sustained winds of 160 miles per hour, with gusts that exceeded 200 miles per hour in some locations. The storm surge rose to a staggering 14 feet, swallowing entire coastal neighborhoods and overwhelming even inland communities. Buildings were reduced to rubble, concrete block homes shattered, roofs were peeled off like the lids of tin cans. And mobile homes? Most didn't stand a chance, flattened or blown apart entirely, with debris scattered miles from where they once stood. But amidst this apocalyptic scene, one modest-looking mobile home remained, upright, undamaged, and seemingly untouched by the chaos surrounding it. While everything else crumbled, it stood as if protected by an invisible force field. How could this be? The design that defied nature. The answer lies not in luck or miracles, but in design, engineering, and a radical rethinking of what mobile homes can be.
The owners of a home in Florida that made it through Hurricane Michael say the design is what saved that house.
This wasn't just any manufactured home. It was the product of a bold experiment.
Came time to make a decision about what level of material or what to use. We didn't pay attention to code. We went above and beyond code.
A prototype built by structural engineers and disaster resilience experts who asked a daring question. Can we design a mobile home that doesn't just meet hurricane codes, but absolutely crushes them? The result was a housing unit that looked modest from the outside, but packed an arsenal of engineering innovations beneath its surface. Let's break it down. Aerodynamic roof design. The roof wasn't flat or gabled like typical homes. Instead, it had a gentle, curved design that helped wind flow over it, rather than catch and lift it. This deflection mechanism drastically reduced uplift forces, a primary cause of roof failures during hurricanes. Anchored deep. Most mobile homes are perched on cinder blocks or supported by skirting. Not this one. It was anchored into a deep foundation, reinforced with steel and embedded into concrete and compacted soil. This system prevented both uplift and lateral shifting. High-impact windows. Every window was made from laminated, shatter-resistant glass, the same kind used in high-rise buildings and armored vehicles. These windows could withstand impacts from flying debris traveling at over 100 miles per hour. Reinforced steel frame. Instead of traditional wood studs, the walls were built with galvanized steel. This gave the home incredible rigidity while also allowing for controlled flexibility, absorbing movement without cracking or breaking. Hurricane-grade doors and seals. Custom manufactured doors were pressure sealed to block wind intrusion. When a home is breached during a storm, internal pressure builds up and causes catastrophic failure. These doors prevented that from happening. These weren't speculative improvements. They were tested rigorously, in labs, in wind tunnels, and in simulated hurricane environments, long before the real storm arrived. The science of hurricane destruction. To understand why this design is such a leap forward, we need to understand how hurricanes destroy homes. When a hurricane hits, the wind doesn't just push against structures. It creates a vacuum-like effect, suction that pulls at roofs, tugs at siding, and tries to force its way inside. The danger begins with tiny vulnerabilities: a cracked window, a lifted shingle, a poorly sealed door. Once wind finds a way in, it pressurizes the interior. That pressure builds up like air inside a balloon until, boom, the structure explodes from within. Roofs fly off. Walls collapse outward. The home disintegrates under its own stress. But this hurricane-proof mobile home didn't have weak points. It was sealed tight, almost like a pressurized aircraft cabin or a submarine. With no entry points for air and no structural compromises, the hurricane had nothing to grip, nothing to push, and nothing to tear away. It didn't resist the wind, it redirected and outsmarted it. Standard mobile homes, a disaster waiting to happen. Now let's be brutally honest about traditional mobile homes, especially those built before the 1994 HUD code improvements. Most have flat roofs that act like wings in high winds. They often sit on makeshift foundations or are anchored improperly. Many use single-pane glass that shatters easily. The walls, often made from cheap materials with little insulation or bracing. These design flaws make standard mobile homes particularly vulnerable in storms. In fact, according to FEMA and NOAA, mobile homes account for a disproportionately high number of hurricane-related fatalities and structural losses. It's not that these homes were built poorly on purpose. They were built affordably. But affordability, in this context, has come at the cost of safety. The survival of this upgraded mobile home changes that equation, proving that safety and affordability don't have to be mutually exclusive. Cost versus safety. Is this future affordable?
If we ever did anything here, we spent a year going through that process with the state to get a permit to build, to get permission to build.
Naturally, the next question is, how much does this type of home cost? Surprisingly, not as much as you might expect. While a standard manufactured home in the U.S. sells for between $85,000 and $120,000, this hurricane-resistant prototype was built for just under $150,000. That's only about 20 to 30% more, a relatively modest increase for dramatically improved safety. Now consider this. The average cost to rebuild a home destroyed in a hurricane is over $300,000. Home insurance in coastal areas has become astronomical. Some Florida residents are paying upwards of $6,000 annually, if they can even find a provider. By investing a little more upfront in a resilient home, families can avoid the much greater cost, financial and emotional, of losing everything in a disaster. Real-world testing, from simulation to survival. This home didn't just survive on a theory or a whiteboard. It was tested under real-world conditions. Before facing Hurricane Michael, the prototype was subjected to extensive validation, wind tunnel testing, fluid dynamics modeling, structural load simulations, and more. The same facilities that test commercial aircraft and skyscrapers were used to validate this home's design. It was also featured in disaster preparedness expos and included in FEMA and HUD research on future housing models. When the storm came, it didn't flinch. It passed the ultimate test, the future of resilient housing. This isn't just about one home. It's about what this home represents, a turning point in how we think about building in vulnerable areas. With climate change fueling stronger, faster, more frequent storms, the need for resilient housing is no longer optional, it's essential. Today, several companies and startups are racing to replicate this kind of storm-resistant mobile housing. Some are experimenting with prefab modules. Others are taking cues from aerospace and automotive engineering to create foldable, shippable, storm-safe homes. Even tech visionaries are paying attention. Elon Musk's Boxable project, for example, is exploring storm-resistant housing modules that echo many of the same ideas. Government agencies like FEMA and HUD are also taking note, pushing for updated codes and incentives to promote resilient construction. A wake-up call or a game changer? So here's the bottom line. One mobile home, standing strong while everything around it collapsed.
However, one home in Mexico Beach was left practically untouched by the storm.
It wasn't magic. It wasn't a miracle. It was smart design, science, and a refusal to cut corners when lives are on the line.
The owners of a home in Florida that made it through Hurricane Michael say the design is what saved that house.
The real question isn't whether we can build hurricane-proof homes. It's whether we will. And maybe, just maybe, this one extraordinary mobile home is the wake-up call we all needed. If this hurricane-proof home blew your mind, imagine what else smart design can do. Subscribe for more groundbreaking engineering stories, like the video to support resilient housing, and let us know, would you live in one of these?